What is up, guys? My name is Bryan. I am an F5 Poké, and I am your coach of the Charlotte Beedrills, a draft team that floats like a butterfree and stings like a Beedrill. And today I am bringing you the roster reveal for UGA Season 3's Charlotte Beedrills. We are back in the Johto Division with a lot of friendly faces and a lot of newer faces, so it should be a really fun season. We had a really good plan going into our drafting session, and luckily for me, everything went according to plan, and I'm gonna talk about everything that all about that drafting process that we did. So it was a 16 team draft, snake format, so 116 and then 16 to 1. And we were the 5th pick. So we got an early pick into what our we got a early pick'ems into what we wanted, and we had with our game plan, we wanted to center around one Pokemon, protect it with a couple of picks after it, and then go for other Pokemon that could give me an additional mode, so it doesn't exactly scream like this is this kind of team, even though this Pokemon is this team's main identity. Picks after that could give me a secondary mode if this mon has a really bad matchup. So with our first pick, we went with Gigantamax Blastoise. And Gmax Blastoise is just a really good mon. It can do a whole bunch of things. It can be setup sweeper with the Shell Smash. It can be physical or special when setting up and all that kind of stuff. And then you can there's also the support Blastoise, which goes like Yawn, Fake Out, a pair of like Aqua Jet or Flip Turn to proc Policy. It can haze away boosts. So there's a lot of things that Gigantamax Blastoise can do that I'm a really big fan of. So and even outside that, there's stuff I can do. But I'm a big fan of the setup sweeper Blastoise. So and that Cannonade is just gonna do gonna be really help. Blastoise's attacking stats aren't that high. It's got an 83 physical attack and then an 85 special attack. So that chip right there with the Cannonade and with a boost or two from the Shell Smash will go a long ways towards getting me a couple of dubs. So yeah, well, first piece was Blastoise, and then after that, we needed to support the Blastoise a little bit. So with this one, we went with one of my favorite mons in draft, or in just VGC in general. I've made use of it in Series 9 and in Series 10, not in drafts, but just the regular laddering, was Mienshao. So what's fantastic about Mienshao is it is one of the faster fake outs in the format. It's one of the faster coachings in the format. And then you also have moves like Knockoff, U-Turn. You can do a little bit of speed control with Rock Tomb if you need to. So I'm a big fan of what the Mienshao allows, and if there were a situation where I was pretty sure that they weren't going to max turn 1, I could lead Mienshao and Blastoise. We can Shell Smash Blastoise and then Fake Out. And that would pretty much guarantee that Blastoise would be able to live the following attack, pending any crits or super effectives or misreading the Fake Out. So looking forward to utilizing that really well again. And then next up, with our picks, pick number 3, we went with Thunder's Therian. So what's really good about the Thunder's Therian is that it has the Volt Absorb ability. It doesn't have the Defiant, it doesn't have the Prankster, it has the Volt Absorb. And why wouldn't I want the Defiant or the Prankster? And that's because the Thunder Therian is a great switch-in for upcoming electric attacks on the Blastoise. So if I wasn't comfortable shell smashing or something like that, I could just switch out the Blastoise, bring in Thunder Therian. It's an immunity to those. It's an immunity to the electric attack, so it protects Blastoise, and then you don't. Unfortunately it's not the Lightning Rod, so it doesn't draw it in, and give the special attack boost, but it will give me an HP boost. So it's a lot of it's a good thing. It protects the Blastoise real well, and if I don't need it to particularly protect Blastoise, I can lead it. It's got a really fast Electro Web, U-turn. Its special attack stat is really high at 145. So, and with that 145 special attack, it's basically a faster Vikavolt. So, if you remember from last season, I really enjoyed the Vikavolt with that 145 special attack. It was able to KO things with a max lightning, even with a special defense boost, because it was so high with the Life Orb. So, yeah, it's a really good support pick. Really good to support the Blastoise, and really good damage dealer as well. So, next up, our next pick, we wanted to start filling in some cores, and this one has a way of filling in the Fire, Water, Grass core, and it also has a way of supporting the Blastoise. So, our next pick, we went with Thwackey. So even with Rillaboom on the board and S tier, it wasn't the S tier Pokemon that I wanted to pick. And the way that the draft was going, I was fairly certain that I could get my S tier last, and luckily that's what happened. But we'll get to that Pokemon when we get there. But what Thwackey does here, it's got the priority Grassy Glide. It can rock an Eviolite. It can do a whole bunch of things that is very tricky. It's got that it's got another Fake Out. It's got that Grassy Glide. It can knock off. It can U-turn. So it even pairs well with a Pokemon that I drafted a little later that also protects Blastoise. So yeah. Luckily, luckily, but I've actually, in multiple leagues that I've actually drafted the entire Grookey line. I had the G-Max Rillaboom in the multi-battle league that I was in. I had Grookey in the Little Cup Speed Tour that we did during UGA Season 2's off-season. And then now I have Thwackey. So, I've always been interested in using Thwackey because running the Eviolite, it's actually like bulkier than Assault Vest Rillaboom. Because I think, if I remember correctly, their special defense stats are the same. And it even has a slightly higher defense stat, I think. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong. But I just remember like Eviolite Thwackey being like even bulkier than AV Rillaboom. So it's a really good support pick in the lower tiers, but it also has a decent amount of damage output depending on how I invest. So that's what I'm really looking forward to looking at that. So next up. So I don't have any kind of Tailwind or Trick Room at this point. And we were looking into some Tailwind losers. We were looking into Noivern and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of realized that I didn't want to play in Trick Room. And I needed a Trick Room counter. So with this pick, we went with the Galarian Articuno. So what's great about the Galarian Articuno is that it can imprison Trick Room, and it can imprison Tailwind. So if I don't want my opponent setting up Tailwind, because it's got maybe a little more reliable way of setting it with like Whimsicott or Talonflame or something like that, I can fake out that slot and then imprison the imprison with Articuno, and that means that my opponent cannot use the moves that Articuno has. So if it shares a move with Articuno, so if it shares a Trick Room, or if it shares the Tailwind, it cannot use that move while Articuno is on the field. And that does mean that I'd have to play really aggressive the following turn, really protect that Articuno as much as I can. But I think it could be interesting in different aspects also. It gets the competitive boost if its stats ever lowered. So if it gets intimidated, who cares? It's getting a +2 in special attack. And then I could even make it faster in that situation with like an adrenaline orb. So it's a little interesting what I could do with Articuno. It is going to be one of the trickier mons to use, because its speed when it comes to a Tailwinder isn't really fantastic at 95. Most things with Tailwind are a little bit faster, but if we get the but if I play it right, we could like I said, fake out the Tailwind user turn 1 and then imprison, and then I can use it myself. So it's something I'd have to really practice with and plan for, but it could find itself being useful in a couple of scenarios. Okay, so after that, we went with we wanted, originally this draft was going to be centered around Mienshao. So this so we had like maybe 10, 15 iterations of this team. And originally the plan was build around Mienshao, but we decided to go the Blastoise routes as well. But we still liked what Mienshao had to offer. So with this pick, we decided to select Aegislash. So what's great about Aegislash is its stance change ability, and when it's in the blade form, that attacking form, it's got a 140 base attack and it's got a 140 special attack. But when you use King Shield and it goes down to its shield form, it's got 140 base defense and 140 base special defense. And as you switch between the forms, that the attacking stats and defending stats will change each turn. So depending on the matchup, maybe there's a slower one where Aegislash could do really well. We can run it physically or special. But when you think of, but I want you to think about that King Shield move. So it's basically a protect, in which if the opponent's Pokemon makes contact with the King Shield, then it gets a defense drop. So, no, wait, was it attack drop or, let me check. I think it's obstruct, that's a defense drop, right? Let me check right quick. Signature move Aegislash, I know that. Oh, it drops the attack stage by 1. Okay. Yeah. So it drops the attack stat. It drops the opponent's attack stat by 1. So that could help with my bulk a little bit. But also, what's really cool is Mian Xiao's coaching goes through those protect moves. So like moves like protect, detect, obstruct, king shield. It goes through those, so my Aegis Thrash gets the attack boost and it gets the defense boost while in protect, while under king shield. So I'm not taking damage and I'm getting bulkier and I'm getting stronger thanks to the coaching. So it was a great way of getting through. It's a great way of bulking up. I know, unfortunately, max moves go through the max guard. I mean, not max guard, but the king shield. But play the cards right in the right team, it could come in handy. You never know. That's what Draft League is about. So after that, we so right now we've got, then the Aegis Slash also fills in the Steel type in the Fantasy Core. So next up, we wanted to complete the Fire, Water, Grass core. We've got Blastoise G-Max as my Water type. We've got Thwackey as my Grass type. And now we're going down into the lower tiers, and we selected Rapidash, Kanto. So what's great about this, it's really fast. It's got a 105 base speed stat. And then its attack stat is, I believe, also 105. So, and you know what also has 105 base speed? Mian Xiao. So, I could run, like, max speed Mian Xiao. And then I could do, like, the same thing with Rapidash, but instead of going with Jolly, we could go Adamant, making sure that Mian Xiao's coaching goes into the Rapidash, fully boosting its 105 or 100 base attack, and its defense, which is a little middling, but any boost to the defense would be great. And then I can do things like I could throw a Scope Lens on Rapidash and then use Drill Run. There's always Flare Blitzes. Rapidash has a really good, well, it's got a pretty decent physical move pool. It's got the Wild Charge for if I want to just go crazy with the recoil moves. It could also be a little bit of a supporter. It has access to Will-O-Wisp and some other support moves. So it's a little bit flexible. It's not going to be a bringing it to every matchup, but there's definitely matchups where it could come in handy. Alright, so next up, we're going toward the end of the draft, and we go with Miltank. So what's great about Miltank is, well, multiple things. So it gets access to the Sap Sipper, so it kind of plays the same role that Thunderous Darien plays with the Blastoise. Thunderous Darien's Volt Absorb protects Blastoise from the incoming electric attacks, and Miltank protects it from the incoming grass attacks, and it gets a +1 attack when hit by grass moves. And as you see there, it also pairs really well with the Thwackey. Thwackey can Grassy Glide into the Miltank. Miltank doesn't take any damage from it thanks to the Sap Sipper, and it gets a +1 in attack. So depending on the matchup, Miltank actually gets a lot of good physical coverage. It gets steel coverage, it gets fairy coverage, it gets obviously normal stuff, it gets fighting, it gets fire, it gets ice, it gets electric with it. Well, I'm pretty sure it gets the elemental punches. But it gets a whole lot of gup. It gets Zen Headbutt, it's got Psychic, it's got a whole bunch of physical coverage. Normal types are great when it comes to their move coverage. And sometimes it's unfortunate that a lot of these normal types have lower special attacking stats with their coverage for like the Thunders and the Flamethrowers and stuff like that. But it's got the physical coverage there. And it can do a lot of good things. It can come to a lot of matchups to do a lot of different things. It's got the Scrappy, so it doesn't care. So depending on the matchup, it doesn't care about Intimidate. You're going to intimidate a Scrappy mod? No, you're not going to do that. That's not even possible. And that's not, and yeah, Miltank looks really good. Also, Whitney's Miltank kicked my ass in Gold and Silver. So, you know. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun with the Miltank there. But next up is a weird pick, admittedly. It finishes out, well, it doesn't actually, but we're finally getting to filling out our fantasy core. So we got the Steel type and Aegislash. Right here, we went with Guzzlord. It's to fill in the Dragon type of the fantasy core. So what's weird about Guzzlord is its stat totals. So it's got it's every other stat other than HP isn't fantastic. Its attack stat is like 101, its special attack stat is 97, so it's a pretty good mixed attacker. It can do a lot of physical. It's got a lot of coverage on both sides of the both sides of the attacking pool, so it is what it is. But what we're really looking at is that base attack stat. Its base attack stat is, not attack, HP, excuse me. Its base HP stat is bonkers at 223. That is crazy. So, obviously it's going to be really hard to use because it doesn't, in theory, it doesn't hit as hard, but also in theory, it takes hits like a madman. So, if there's not a clear fairy on the opponent's team, then I can bring it in, like save it as a late max, and then if I've gotten rid of everything that's weak to fighting type moves, fairy types, bug types, that kind of thing, then I can max it. And just use its coverage as damaging moves, so that I can live a lot of hits, and then just do enough damage to where I'm supporting the team as not really as a damaging max, but as a support max, and still having it pull a roll. It might get the kind of the Dino treatment that I had in the Speed Tour. I never really considered Dino if there was a fairy type, so maybe Guzzlord does get kind of the Dino treatment, but we'll see what happens, you know? Okay. So we have 2 picks left, and at this point, we were thinking about Crawdaunt as a D tier mod. But the morning that we were going to make those picks, I realized that Crawdaunt wasn't C tier. It was a misreading of the tiers, a misremembering of it with my drafting partner, Masinko. Shout out to Masinko. But, he was really the one who theory crafted almost this entire team, but I gave input on mods that I wanted to add to it and stuff like that. So it was a group effort between us, but we did a couple of times misremember or misread the tier list, so I had to scrap that. And what I ended up going for was Berserker. So what's really cool about Berserker, mainly, is that Steely Spirit ability that it has. So what Steely Spirit does is it gives like a boost to steel type moves on my side of the field. So it gives a boost to Berserker steel type moves and my partner steel type moves. And I got mons with some really good steel coverage. We've got Flash Cannon on Thunderstarian, and we got Flash Cannon on Blastoise. We've got the sealed moves on Aegislash. We've got Iron Head on Miltank and any of its other steel coverage. And there might be a couple of other steel coverage moves that my Pokemon have. But it boosts all of their steel type moves. It also gets access to the Tough Claws ability. So we get a Tough Claws boosted Fake Out, Tough Claws boosted U-Turn, Iron Head Close Combat, and a lot of other things. It's a really niche selection at in C tier. It's not going to be something that I bring every week, but it's definitely something that fits my team. Berserker isn't a Pokemon that really fits a lot of teams, but I have a very deceptive Steely Spirit mode and kind of a deceptive Trick Room mode as well. So so it's a good fit there, and hopefully make really good use of it. All right, so now we're finally at the final pick of the draft, and I told you we were saving our ass pick for last, and it just turned out that it went that way. Everyone else, we had a lot of players, coaches, kind of go the double S tier route. But the thing with that, and the way that our tier list was set up, was that if you took 2 S tiers, you really lost out on a lot of really good mons that are in like A and B tier. And the way this draft was set out, there was a lot more emphasis on getting really good Pokemon in these lower tiers, so you don't come off as a very top-heavy team. Because in draft, you really don't want to be top-heavy. You don't want to be predictable in what you're going to bring. If you're top-heavy and you're winning, hey, great. Cybertron had a very top-heavy team in his WBE VGC team, and he made it to the final. So it's not bad to be top-heavy, but it kind of goes against the fundamentals of drafting. So we were looking for a setup partner for Blastoise. And what better way of allowing Blastoise to set up than a redirector? And we got access to one of the best redirect moves in the game in Follow Me. And we also had our pick at what that Follow Me user was going to be. It was a toss-up between Clefairy and Clefable. And we went with Clefable. How are you thinking? But Bryan, Clefairy gets Friend Guard, gives your Pokemon defense boost, blah blah blah. Yeah, we get that. Fantastic Pokemon in draft. But we already have something that is wanting to hold Eviolite. We don't want 2 Pokemon fighting over that Eviolite item. So that's one reason we went with Clefable. It still gets the Follow Me, but it's also a little bit of an offensive mod. I can run an offensive set with it. It's got the Magic Guard ability, which I can slap a Life Orb on it. It gets if I wanted to run the offensive Fable, it gets the boost of the Life Orb without the recoil of the Life Orb. So it hides the item, but it also gets access to Unaware. So Unaware is the ability it gets when a Friend Guard Clefairy evolves into Clefable. And what's great about Unaware is it ignores opponents' stat changes when doing or taking damage. So if something had a weakness policy, someone got a weakness policy boost, I could have that Clefable follow me and use follow me, it'll take the base damage, not the one based on the +2 in attack or special attack, but just that that base damage instead of the boost. And that allows my opponent to go into it for heavy damage, to take it out, that kind of thing. So it really supports my team really well. And I just wanted to show you one more thing about this team while I have you here. So in my past couple of drafts, I was very type weak against like 1 or 2 types. So if you think about my UGA Season 2 team, my first 3 picks were Excadrill, Gigalith, and Stoutland. I was incredibly weak to fighting, and it also had Cradilly on the squad, and I didn't have a single ghost type, so I didn't have any fighting resist. I got a fairy a little bit down the line, but I was incredibly weak to fight. So it was hard to switch into fighting type mons. And then my first UGA team was this rain team, and while it did have Raichu to help mitigate electric type attacks, it didn't. It was still like very weak to electric and grass. But what's great about this is that all 18 types are either completely covered, or I have the same amount of resists and weaknesses of that type. So there's no glaring type weakness that my opponent can take advantage of. Granted, one of the types that I just have the weakness. I just have the same amount of weaknesses and resistances as ground, and max quakes are one of the more common max moves to use. But fortunately, those mons aren't gonna be the ones that I'm gonna bring every week. So like as you see here with this damage chart, almost everything is covered except for poison, which isn't a very common attacking move or max move. Rock potentially has, but it's kind of the same thing with ground. The same mons that are, well, not really, but I can definitely, I'm a little bit weak to rock, so, well, not weak to it, but we have the same resistances as weaknesses, so I might find myself, my opponents having rock falls or rock slides, and then ghosts, ghost moves, depends. But everything else is covered really well, so I have a little more bulk into this team. So yeah, that's this iteration of the Charlotte Beedrills. First matchup is going to be against Coach Lucien and the Far Rockaway Tyrantars. The first week doesn't start until next week, so that's sometime that week is when our first battle will be uploaded. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you stick around and cheer on the Charlotte Beedrills as we try to make playoffs for the first time in the UGA. I think this team has the most chances, the best opportunity to do so, as I think it most fits my playstyle that we were developing through all of these draft leagues that I've been participating in. And without further ado, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.